All right, let's bring it back. I'm Lindsay. I'm with She's Independent, and I lead our community efforts. So what that means inside She's Independent is I make sure that our member experience is good. And those opportunities that our members have to step into diligence and learn more about angel investing and surround themselves with thought leaders and literacy surrounding money mindset and investing is a good experience. So we aren't just another angel investment group, and we want to make sure that's known. The thought leadership and care and attention and protective and nurturing behavior that Natalie's created for She's Independent really makes this a community. And there's also really good deal flow. We're prepping for our pitch event next week, and so really excited about the companies that are coming. So a little bit of a personal story, because I think those always go a long way. I joined Natalie. She was my first client when I started consulting about 2 years ago now. Yeah, and so I'm really grateful for the opportunity. And I brought a few deals to the community, and I always run them by her first, and she's reminded me probably 3 or 4 times, like, hey, you're an investor, and share this with the group. You have to run it by me first. And I'm like, right, okay, I've done this before. And so it's just a really good reminder. And when you surround yourself with the people that believe in you, that just makes all the difference. And Natalie's done that for me and for our larger community. So we're so happy to have you here. And another show of hands, lots of hands today. Sorry, Nita, gonna kind of follow in your footsteps there, but we just want to make sure that our speakers are grounding in who's in the room, and they're answering questions and keeping kind of who's in the room top of mind. So I'm just curious, who here, I think everyone should raise their hands, is interested in financial well-being? Awesome, cool, sounds good. And keep your hand raised if you would like to step into some sort of financial authority. Great. And keep your hand raised if you want to write checks into investments. And that doesn't necessarily need to be angel. Awesome. Keep your hand up if you're already writing checks as an investor, including angel. Okay. And do any of you have anxiety around showing up around this topic? Cool. All right, a few, but we've got some confidence here. I love it. Well, this is great. I'm going to hand it off to Natalie. I'm also going to get my water bottle here, and I forgot it at the front. And, but I'm going to hand it over to you. Thank you, everyone. Yeah. Thanks, Lindsay. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Natalie, the founder of She's Independent. But I want to say it's not about my business. I really think it's our business and community. So just some shout outs. Y'all, showing up here, thank you. It can be tough to, talk about money, especially if you didn't grow up in a family or in a community where, it was something that was encouraged. And I think a lot of us probably identify with that. We'll talk about it. A founder we've invested in. Women-centric family. What's up? But, I think that from the hands that we just saw, there is interest and there is power, and y'all have influence. And so there's a lot we can learn. It's always a journey. It's not about the attaining. We'll talk about it. My background stems from finance. I used to do it, let's just say, with and maybe for the guys, and now I do it for myself. When to bring that grounding and that foundation from Wall Street, private equity, angel investing in a space where we can celebrate ourselves, women, show up, do all of it. It's such a beautiful thing. So that's a little bit about me. I'd love to hand it over and hear a little bit of the bios, short ones, of our speakers who have such tremendous knowledge, background, breadth of where they come from. And then we're going to dig in, further in the conversation. But with that, Marie, why don't we have you kick it off?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Marie Peters. I'm the fund director of B-Side Capital and B-Side Fund. My background is in economic development and community development. So I've been with B-Side for about 13 years, but prior to that, I was with the Governor's Office of Economic Development and International Trade. What we do is we invest through small business loans in underserved, under-resourced, underestimated entrepreneurs. And that is largely women sometimes. About half of our portfolio are women-owned businesses. And so I'm really excited to be here for this conversation. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Martina?
Hi everyone, my name is Martina Feldeman. I'm a former molecular biologist, so spent many years in a more technical male-dominated field like you, Natalie, before I took the leap and started my own business in executive coaching and leadership development. So I love working with high achievers who really want to break through some of those mindset barriers that we hopefully get to talk today and just make those strategic decisions, confident decisions without that self-doubt. And yeah, I'm really excited to be here and kind of provide maybe a slightly different angle to mindset work. Thank you.
Great. Uma?
Hi everyone, I'm Uma Gopaldas. I'm originally from Singapore. I'm now in Colorado for about 15 years. Originally, I'm an oil and gas person. I've got a couple of oil and gas people here. So I've been digging black gold, and then I moved to digging gold. So that's why I'm here in Colorado. I was moved here for Newmont Mining. I worked offshore on oil rigs and open pits and mining towns, small towns. And then I realized I need to dig my soul out of the ground and started my company about 7 years ago. Still digging in. So now I'm doing a lot of impact investments for healthcare, women's sports, and definitely environmental transition, energy transition, which I have a few friends here that we have great conversations about the next phase of new energy economy and all of that stuff. So I have my own company called Leading Lotus. Lead out of your heart and soul, not out of your tush was the tagline. I think that tagline, out of the tush, out of the corporate world, you know, it's well. And yeah, so now I'm here and having fun and enjoying life.
Great. Well, we are, in the presence of greatness with all of you as well. And I want to remind everyone, it's not always easy to step into something new. Thank you for being here. This is a safe space. If you have questions, if you engage, you get out of it what you put in. We're going to have an exercise in a little bit, but we're going to start with a panel. We're going to dig in, ask some questions, get you thinking. Feel free to take notes. Notice, we have a handout where you can take some of this hopefully outside of the room and into your life and integrate it and start practicing it, but start practicing with us today. So with that, I want to kick it off with the topic of money. Okay? It can bring up so many things, for each of us, for all of us. Let's talk about it. And, by talking about it and making, the unknown known or starting to shed some light, we can start to do the work. So I want to hear from each of you. What does it bring up? And don't shy away from the scary stuff, please. It's a big question. So whoever feels called, I'm gonna put that one out there. Just jump in with it. Any of you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, subject of money, I have a very emotional trauma with money, right? So I grew up dirt poor. Singapore is, it's crazy rich Asian movies are true now and only 1% of the population. But back in the days, it was a developing nation. We were all dirt poor. I was third child of 3. And my brothers didn't grow up with milk. That's how poor my family was. But funny enough, we never felt poor. We always felt rich because of the experience, community, love for each other. But I also grew up in a very alcoholic family. So there's a lot of trauma. Money was just bleeding out, right? So I think I had to do, I'm 51 this year. I had to do a lot of healing for 40 plus years. Funny enough, I worked high-level jobs. I was offshore oil drilling. I was earning, at the age of 20, I was earning $15,000 a year, plus another $10,000 for offshore drilling in remote parts of the world in Nigeria, Angola, Indonesia. I could never keep the money. It would never stick around. It happened to be that way for 40 years of my life. Yeah. So I should have been a millionaire by now, but the money would never stick around and then I realized it's my energy and my relationship with money that I'd never know how it felt to have money. And so I kept pushing it away. And some things, a lot of disasters would happen where the money would come and go, right? So that was my relationship. Only recently, about last 7 years, I said enough is enough. I have to heal the wounds, go back to my past, get rid of that, all that false narrative about not good enough, not worthy, whatever it was. fix all that stuff. And then today I'm swirling around billionaires and millionaires in impact investment. I'm talking to these people who are rich, filthy rich, asking them to open up their wallet and fund some of our businesses, very community-based businesses.
So beautiful and powerful. And so I'm going to take that and maybe even reframe it a little bit. What is money? How did you think about it? And how do you think about it today? And thank you for that wonderful depth of response. Martina?
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I may dodge your question because I want to add something that Uma mentioned, and I feel like we have so many beliefs around money, and I think money is the easiest way to really uncover our limiting beliefs or the narrative that we have, and everyone has it, right? I think it's growing up in different circumstances, and it's often not, or what I also heard you say is often not kind of the amount of the dollars, but the meaning that we give it. And, you know, I grew up with a lot of scarcity thinking, and I think it's hard to move out of that and into a more abundant way of thinking. And it's just so fascinating, you know, to kind of how everything relates back to worthiness or imposter syndrome or the fear of having too much or the fear of having too little, right? And it shows up. I think I like always getting to the root cause of what's going on in our mindset. And I think there's so many parallels to leadership also. That's why I love this topic. Yeah.
Love that. Thank you. Lori?
I'll share that I kind of grew up with a different experience. My father was a banker, and I felt like I quickly discovered that the lessons that I was getting at home with financial literacy wasn't happening everywhere. And I think that's what led me to the work that I do today on economic development, because there was an opportunity there where I did learn some of those lessons very early. Or when I was in college, my father said, you have to get a credit card to start building your credit, right? And so we had those conversations at home. But when I was talking to my friends or my community, I realized, not everyone is getting this education. And I think financial literacy is so important because ultimately nothing bad happens when you give people money, and if you give women money. If anything, that's where the impact starts to happen. And so that's, again, why I am really connected to what we do at B-Side, and why I want to help women talk about these very sensitive topics that have been taboo for so long, so that they can have those financial freedoms.
I love it. And I think that was the perfect order. Because it was great. Thank you for the volunteer on the first. Similar to you, Marie, I grew up in a household where money was talked about, and I was kind of the son in a way, where I learned from a young age how to work with it and how to have it work for me. I think before I started really digging in and doing the work, I thought of money as scarcity mindset and security. As I'm doing the work, because you're never done, the work is the work. Now I think of it, very differently, and a huge part of why, we do what we do at She's Independent is that financial freedom, and that freedom of, well, y'all told me to get married. Y'all told me, that you wanted to harass me. And by stepping into financial independence, I truly can live my own life and make, really impactful decisions for me and, in my own way. So love that one. I think it's a really great way to kick off. Next up, I think we clearly, all have gone through or are undergoing a transition. And again, the transition can be ongoing, the journey. When and how did you start stepping into that autonomy, that confidence, the new skills? And again, you can reframe that question as needed, because maybe it's not about new skills, but how you started showing up. So again, I'm going to open it up. Whoever wants to kick that one off, but I'd love to hear from each of you.
I can start on that list. Yeah, I think when it comes to money, and I realized that having money and using it well can bring you the experiences that you want to have, and really kind of stepping into that. And because I think money, there's that saying, money brings happiness and whatever. I think money brings choice, right? I think our most valuable resource is actually our time and attention. And when you have enough, you can be using your time in a way that is aligned with who you are. And so when I realized that, I kind of try to look at how I'm spending my time, how I'm spending my money, that feels a good way and contributing to the community. And so, yeah, that's kind of the first thing that kind of came to my head.
Great. I really love that, especially that the time, like money comes and goes, right? But the time is the precious resource we have, and limited, if you will. I think my leap came when I started to step into entrepreneurship, even though the money part was less stable at the beginning than a stable corporate career. But I feel like I had the choice, and for me, it was important to have the time and not trade time for money in a kind of one-on-one manner, but really being able to leverage, the skills that I have, invest them to not only create more money, but also more time, because again, it comes back to choices, right? If you have certain amount of money, you can make certain choices, but I feel the same is true with time. And for me, time is more precious. Yeah.
I really love that. I think it's all aligned. For me, oh man, I think I was working 18 hours a day, killing myself for a leadership that was very afraid of who I was, telling me I wasn't good enough, unworthy. And I had to literally say I was shaking most of the days. So I knew I was going to be shot, cancer or something, right? If I carry on working like that for 30 years of my life, for corporate big gigs. All for something. I don't even know what it was. I saved quite a bunch of money, and I always knew I was going to start my company. I just didn't know when. But when you're in survival mode all of the time, like if I quit now, what happens? If I don't do this, what about insurance? What about healthcare? What about, and most of us here are most probably givers. So we're taking care of other people more so than ourselves, which means not working sometimes feels like, you're going to drop the ball on somebody else's life. So you carry on beating yourself up. And then there came a point of time that I just literally couldn't do it, just couldn't get up and get to work. I had saved enough, and I had a coach and a mentor, which is really what you guys need to get if you're in that stage of burnout, deep burnout. And she said, you got to start your company. When is it? When? It's now. And so that's when Leading Lotus was born. I bought a house while I quit, just in case, because I couldn't seal the mortgage. So the mortgage lenders didn't know I actually quit. It was about a month. Sealed the house. It was a luxury house down in Sloan's Lake. Had 3 years of money for mortgage, and said, oh, this is it. Right. Okay, I'm done. Maybe this business will do it. Boy, was I wrong. So I still had to repair my relationship with money, right? So I had this wonderful 2017 company, Valentine's Day company, and COVID hit, and I was nearly on the brink of losing the house. I was almost on the streets because my ex had thrown me out of his house. And everything I feared, being homeless when I was a child, came true. I was like, oh shit, this is how it is. And so I was like, called up my friend, went to stay with her for a few days, started paying her rent, took a board certification, dug a $10,000 credit card, a debt more further than what I already had in debt. And then boom, 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 boom. My business just shot through 2020, 2021 till today. It's like, how did that happen? It's just basically getting over that fear that whatever your fear is will come true, but it's not that. Because it feels like you're dying. Standing at the lake thinking, shit, I don't have a home. Yeah. Oh, it doesn't feel that bad. Woohoo, I'm free. I love that. And to your point, I really wanted to, the money was not about the money. Having more money wasn't about the money. It was having freedom and kindness to myself. Because I was giving away so much of myself to everything else.
Yeah, brilliant. I'll also piggyback on I was doing the thankless work working way too hard. Let's not talk about, the traditional financial path. But my body, I started getting sick. Probably had many, many deaths if you, heard that term. And I started listening, and through really tough life events, I actually started She's Independent following the loss of my mother to suicide, who never understood her financial situation. I really uncovered these, really deep values that were always there in me, but then I started to live them. And I think the ability, the freedom of the worst thing happened, or, what am I doing with my life, allowed me to show up in a, completely new way, and redevelop my relationship with money. But it's not like it happens and we're there. It keeps happening. When I stepped away from income, wait, am I okay? Yeah, great. And I'm bootstrapping She's Independent. I love it. I love the work. So I think there's a lot of, threads within our stories that, tell something really, really deep and transformational, but it's not like we've attained the thing. I think it's about the growth into it and the freedom and the letting go. And I will say, it's a lot easier to recognize you don't need it when you have it. Like that's just the way it is, but you can still do the work and find and see and gain perspective, no matter where you are. Hopefully this conversation is a part of that for you. So let's talk about journey. Where do you feel that you are on that journey? And again, anything goes, right? And it's okay if you can address this as you want, let's just say.
I mean, I agree with you, right? We're always on a journey, and it's not about reaching a certain end goal or getting a certain amount of money or a title or whatever that is, right? I think the fulfillment comes from creating it in the moment and having the ownership, whatever that means, through your own business or your own, role that you're taking on within your organization. But I think we all have it backwards, right? We want to achieve success, and once we achieve that success, then we'll be happy, and then things are good. But it's the opposite, right? We have to find that within us, and that's where the mindset work comes in, and it takes work, but it's also fun. And I've really enjoyed the journey part and creating the things that I've always, wanted to achieve. Oh, once I have my PhD, once I'm CEO of the company, then I'll be happy. It's like, no, I can create that in the here and now. And I am a lot more happier, or a lot happier than I was having all those positions or titles, because I didn't feel the freedom or ownership that, a lot of you talked about. And so I think the journey is ongoing, and the journey is actually the fun part, not the end goal.
And I would also say the journey changes with what phase of life you are, right? So as you ladies are talking, I was thinking about how when I was younger, it was easier to take risks, right? Because you're young. I talked earlier about values and alignment, and when I graduated from college, I got my first job, and it was a research assistant at a think tank in DC. And I went there because there was a specific international economic development project that interested me. Well, that project never came to fruition. And I was there for about a year, and I'm like, this is not me, right? And so I decided to quit my job, sell all my things, sell my car, and then I went to volunteer in Africa for a year. Because that was the international economic development experience that I wanted, because I looked at job descriptions of my dream job, and it said you need a master's degree and you need field experience. So I said, okay, you're going to go get my field experience. When I come back, I'm going to get my master's degree. And so I was able to do that, right? Because I didn't have a family or kids to take care of. And as I'm sitting here reflecting now, I do have young children, right? And so I think my tolerance for risk and making sure that I have a stable career so that we can pay the mortgage and pay for all their activities and save for their college and all of that, like what my parents did for me, I feel like it would be very hard for me to, start my own business or something like that. And so I just found that to be interesting, that your risk-taking level or your relationship with money and risk-taking can change depending on what phase of life that you're on. And that's probably what I need to work on, is like we are probably okay. And I don't have to get to that milestone of retirement has to be this, or, the 529 savings has to be this to be able to do the things that I want.
Love all these. I'm feeling pretty embodied, I guess, on the financial side these days. I don't have any guaranteed income. I have investment income in a good sized portfolio that's really exciting, including some investors and founders in the room. But things come and they go. But the flow and that energy and showing up to say, I want to invest in him and her and them, that is so gratifying and so rewarding. And I think because, again, it's a journey. I'm still cheap with things. Like, don't get me wrong. Okay? Value oriented. No, it's the frame. It's the reframe. But I put it where I want and where it serves me. And again, there's still the learning. And bringing y'all, hopefully, with us to show up so that more folks step into that autonomy and that independence. I think, that's a big part of my journey, because it's not just my portfolio. I care about all you great people that are a part of this or stepping into your money journey, because money influences so much in the world we live in today. But that work and a lot of the understanding of it's not about the money. Yes, I'm wearing gold jewelry because I showed up, to look a little gold for y'all. But yeah, it's not about the thing so much for me these days, and I'm really proud of that. So we're going to answer this one quickly because I want to get to, some exercises and whatnot. But what's next for each of you? What actions either are you taking, or maybe there's something that you wish you'd done sooner? So you can answer that one as you see fit. But also feel free to answer and then the here and now.
So for me, I think I'm in the eat, play, love phase of my life. Because life was too serious, so you always had to work your tush off. Now it's like, so I went home for 4 months, which is Singapore. Like Colorado is also home. So I'm completely homeless still. But I always thought, what do I do with that much of time and money? I sit in a couple of boardrooms, so I have a lot of time, but I get paid for the boardrooms. While I'm doing my mission to have the world transition to better fuel, and do good more and earn returns on it. While I'm doing that gig, I still need to nurture some of these things that I've been missing in childhood. So going back home for 4 months, doing nothing, going to Bali, going to the beach, that seems like, wow, I tested it out this time. So I went in December, came back just on Liberation Day. Felt alienated straight away. But I was pushing the boundaries of how much far I can go with this freedom of time, and it worked. So now I'm thinking maybe 6 months, without getting caught at the border, because I still have a green card. So, but it truly feels freeing when you can think about doing things that you've never thought of, right? I still think I want to buy a farm somewhere and live a simple life. Go through a huge circle of chasing money. I used to chase career and money, and then end up thinking, wow, it's the simple life that really mattered a lot, just living by the ocean or somewhere with loved ones and families and relationships and community building. So I think that's the next thing, and that's what I'm doing now.
Beautiful.
I think for me, and that was a big reason why I left corporate, is because there was always the mindset you can either have a successful career, or you can be a good parent, or you can have hobbies or be athletic. And I said, no, I want all of these things. I want to be a good parent. I want to be successful as a woman, and I still want to do my hobbies. I love to climb, and I never want to give that up because that gives me energy. So I feel like I've created that for myself to a certain extent, and the journey is still ongoing. I think the thing that I always am working on is, if the external environment, for example, during COVID, right, isn't great, how do you still stay in that higher energy and higher mindset? And how can you quickly switch if you find yourself, you're getting dragged down a little bit, or you don't have, the trust, confidence in yourself? And that's something I've worked a lot on with my clients. You know, how can you create your reality that you like, even when the outer circumstances are not in favor right now? And I think for me, it's a fascinating piece. Also as a scientist from a behavioral perspective. And I think that's continuous work that I will, continue to do for myself and for other people as well.
And what's next for me? I kind of want to answer in two ways. So first, having this conversation is reminding me that when we're working with our women entrepreneurs or just small business owners, we usually come in when they need some kind of small business loan. And what I'm kind of realizing is when we're working one-on-one with those small business owners, I should probably be asking these mindset questions and working a bit deeper to see where they are, not just looking at the business financials or what their product or service is, but like where their head is at when it comes to money, because I think that will aid them in their growth and moving forward. So that's one piece. The other side, we run a nonprofit organization, right? So I have to fundraise for a nonprofit. So I'm also manifesting and that fundraising so that we can bring in those operational dollars so that we can then be able to work with all the entrepreneurs that need our help. And so manifesting, but then also having these deeper conversations about this very important topic. So thanks for the inspiration.
Love it. So many good threads. I want to touch on something Uma said, which is that cycle, right? Everything's a cycle. Gosh, in the last 24 hours, I was reflecting on, I have so much stuff and I don't need stuff. But I also loved the process of and the path to, and I can buy these things for myself. Mm-hmm. So I think furthering my relationship with money, which is also energy, it's, it's all interchangeable. Balance, like not just giving. I love giving, and I'm literally like, okay, Natalie, be less altruistic and be more selfish in a good way, right? Especially as women, we give so much. You have to show up for yourself first. And that flow, and in recognizing in their studies where it's women, oftentimes, or girls are raised where it's, all right, this is how to buy the groceries, but not how to save for that house or make the investment. And so that journey of growing up in a household where I learned some of these skills, I love sharing and having conversation and community with others that are interested in launching, their money journey, whether it's they want to be a VC someday, or they want to write a check, or they just want to be in the room because there's influence, and then they are more influential. So I'm loving the work, hoping to launch many, many more of you, or, work with you to step you into more money confidence. So this was a lot of fun. We're going to do a little exercise for those that are watching on video, even though it's after the fact. Instead of finding a human, you might find your dog or a mirror, or press pause and do this. But we would love to move into an audience exercise, because by stepping in and doing the thing, hopefully, right, that will help a little bit more in the transformation. And totally fine if you are nervous. This is a safe space again. Everyone showed up today, so please, we'd love to hear from you. But grab, a little group of 2 or 3. Y'all are welcome, as speakers here to join in if you'd like, or, do it here. But I'm going to share a few prompts, and you're going to have a couple of minutes to each share. So choose the prompt that feels good for you, or maybe something else that we said was a great seed and you want to, riff off of that. So a few prompts that you can think on. 1, speak to an area of money expertise or interest and where you'd like to go with it or grow with it. Another prompt, share a money trauma and steps that you plan to take to step into or position yourself for strength and healing. So go be with your money mindset, your group, and we will come back and, share a little bit shortly. So with that, if anyone is open to sharing some of the nuggets, insights that came up, we would love to hear it. And Lindsay will share this mic, which you can hold like not too close to your mouth. And we're not going to change the camera. So it's really about, we want to make sure everyone can hear what you say, but also project. So anybody who feels open to, called to, and just a little share is great because, you know, we'd love to hear from different folks. Thanks. We have a brave soul.
There you go. Thank you.
I think one of the themes that came up here is that it's one thing to do the work for yourself, but we always work with other people. And so now you're having to deal with the baggage they bring, and you often end up in conflict or disappointed with how things turn out. And, you know, how could you have made it go differently? And I just think it's a challenge. You have to work through it. And there are people that you'll be successful with, and there's people you won't. And that's just the reality. When you're married to them, I think that's bigger. But in general, I mean, we don't do these things on our own.
Great point. And we can decide when to engage, when to disengage. Potentially. I'm not married. I'm married to my dog and
Tracy.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Tracy Brennan, and I'm part of She's Independent. And one of the things we were talking about in our little group here was how you got your money mindset, you know, and I told them that I grew up with a dad who was a businessman and had his own businesses, started his own businesses. And so Mom and Dad always taught us to like put a certain amount of money aside every month, you know, to save. They taught us some good habits, even from, you know, childhood. And that's how I got to over 31 years of teaching. I got into the habit of putting away 50% of my paycheck. And so by the time you end 31 years, even as a teacher, you know, you're like, oh, I have some money I can do something with. So now I'm trying to figure out what to do with it.
And I'm just going to say, she's writing her first check.
Righty.
We're here.
I've got a statement and a question with it. We started down a 529 path conversation, and if I had it to do over again with my currently 22-year-old who went to culinary school, but is now thinking about going back for a 4-year degree, I would have probably gone with a Roth IRA. As professionals, what are your thoughts on that now with the way the world is changing and formal education being a little bit different?
It's a great question. So we can each answer it. I will just say, I don't over-index or put too much focus necessarily on the vehicle these days. I'm also big on the flow. I also don't have, you know, kids. My dog, you know, she's homeschooled, obviously. We work from home together. But I think for me, I'm roughly half Roth. And by the way, like, I'm not a wealth manager or like a, you know, private bank or anything like that. But also I think we can only plan so much, and like life is life. So as long as we save enough to put, you know, food on the table or, you know, roof over our heads, like, I think we're doing a great job.
Yeah, I agree. And so for those of you who might not know what a Roth is, it's a retirement account. There's a Roth IRA where you can set up an individual retirement account, or you can do a a Roth 401k where maybe it's through your employer. And how it works is you set aside money that is after tax. So you get your paycheck, you set aside the money. There's a maximum that the, you know, IRS comes up with every year on the maximum you could set aside. And the benefit of doing it after tax is it can grow. And then when you're older and you take withdrawals, you don't have to pay tax on it later. So it'll reduce your cash flow in the now, but it'll grow to be big later. So I'm a huge proponent of Roth. I think it makes a lot of sense to set those up. And again, for those Roth IRAs, you have to earn us under a certain level of income to be able to contribute to it. And it has to be earned income. So if you're thinking about children, they have to have some kind of job that they can have that earned income. It can't be, just like chores from mom and dad to set it up. So I think if there's a way to do it, I think it makes a lot of sense. It's really flexible, but it depends on your phase of life, right? If you need that cash now because of other expenses, as long as you're setting aside some amount pre-tax or after tax, I think it's a good strategy.
And quickly, I just want to say there's the backdoor Roth conversion, other ways to classify as Roth. And then, there's so many things we could talk about, but what's going to happen ultimately, with taxes? Because if taxes went down, maybe there's a lot of questions. So I guess we live in a world of unknown. So make the best decision you can, but also be thoughtful and work with somebody who, has a financial background. I'm not saying work with me on the personal finance stuff, but talk about money and ask the questions. I think that's the thing. And also work with somebody you trust. I hate hearing, there's not a lot of things I hate in this world. I hate hearing when people say, well, I don't trust my, financial advisor, financial planner. Like, get a new one. Okay? Like that, forget the Roth conversation. I can tell you emphatically, like, get a new financial planner, and that is the best decision you can make. We don't know if it's the Roth or the non-Roth, but get a new financial planner.
Yeah, and get multiple opinions.
Yeah.
Just like you would with a doctor getting, a second diagnosis or something, you can get multiple opinions and then you can form your own.
Interestingly, I have a friend who did put endowment for college kids, 2 kids, who didn't go to college and now the money stuck. So she's using it to do her PhD. So it can go both ways. That's today's days. What do they want to do? Yeah. Lots of planning. Okay.
Anyone else want to share? And no problem if not. If you also have just a general question, we obviously talked about a ton today. This is a lot of fun. Maybe, some new content, maybe some things that you're scared of, but we opened a door. Great. Should we give Nina the mic? Yeah, maybe I'll.
So for people who are just maybe being introduced to this idea of money mindset, because some people have never even heard of this before, they don't even know what a money mindset is. How can people get started on their own? Like, where is a good place? Like, maybe you don't have enough money to hire a coach. Like, what would you guys suggest people kind of starting to do if they're just starting their journey?
Great question, Nina. Put this back over there. Well, I'm just going to quickly promote selflessly that handout you have. Do the work, right? Showing up today, that's some of the work. Show up for it. This stuff is scary. Like, engage, have conversations, find the resources, people, the communities, work with a coach, if you're in that stage of burnout or you're like, I don't know what to do, I feel, stuck. Letting go is not easy, right? Starting new, evolving, like this stuff is not easy. It is work. So maybe you need, hands to get there. That's what I would say.
Yeah, and I think to your point, if you're not ready to work with a coach, I think the self-reflection is important because I like a tool that I call AAA. The first one, A, is awareness, right? Understanding what are your thoughts around money? What have you learned, from your parents? How is that serving you? How is it standing in the way? The second one is acceptance, because we don't want to fight it, right? We just want to accept it. Doesn't mean we have to tolerate it or we have to resign to it, but just like, oh, this is how I think about money and this is how it potentially be limiting me, or maybe I don't have enough knowledge in this area. Once you have that acceptance piece, and a lot of people skip over that, you can go into the third A, which is action, meaning as in conscious and intentional choice, right? If you identify a gap, for example, it's like, okay, I can take a course. There's so much online these days, right? Or I can read a book on this, or I can talk to someone within my group of friends who have a similar story. How did they overcome it, right? So there's many things you can do for yourself just by being more self-reflective and making intentional choices, and write it out or say it out loud, because we all have all those thoughts kind of ruminating, and often that never leads to any action. But if you can write it out, or even better, have an accountability partner to talk to, I think then you'll start putting things into motion.
And mic drop, that's a metaphor for life, like that landmark, just, she's here. In case you didn't pick up on it because you're so focused on money stuff, which is okay. I just want to address something. How many of you are thinking that whatever we used to do in the past is not the same, it's not going to be the same for today with where your administration is going, sorry, with United States confusion is going. I'm confused, but I still have Singapore. I'm not cash rich, I'm asset rich. So I've been putting a lot into asset, which sometimes I think if I die tomorrow, someone's going to join. Call my mom. But the thing is, how many of you are worried that the same formula is not going to work? Oh, that's interesting. So be careful when you're on YouTube. There's a lot of advisors, YouTube, podcasts, and all that. I would say be prudent. There's a lot of good resources, wealth management resources out there. So reach out to us if you need some resources that give good, prudent advice, right? Especially these days, even I'm confused sometimes, but I like to do scenario planning. If it goes this way, if it goes that way, what do I do? Sweet. And there's planning, but it's also an unknown. And if you're flowing with it and we're free and we're in the here and now, there's also only so much preparation, right? But that mindset and the framework of, well, no matter what happens, we're good. I mean, that's wealth too. So I think recognizing it's not just about the money, even though we're here talking about the money.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. You nailed that. It's don't worry too much. Don't worry at all. I've been coaching a lot of worried people recently since I landed on the phone. What do I do? It's okay. Don't worry. Everything's going to be fine.
Especially don't worry about the things that are out of your control.
Exactly.
That's wasted energy. Yeah.
And money is energy. So stop wasting it is the point. All of it. It's all one. I know we're up to time. This was so fun. So insightful. Thank y'all for, being a part of it and those in the room. We love feedback. So if you have it, let us know. Lindsay's big on, tapping to know how did it go and what can we do better. But hey, we showed up. So that's what matters. All of us. So thank y'all.